Hello, this is Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson. Today, we're discussing news from the United States, which is sending shockwaves through Europe. I'm talking about the ruling by a majority of the judges at the United States Supreme Court to overturn the right to legal abortion across the whole US. Now, almost immediately after this was announced, French lawmakers moved to inscribe the right to pregnancy termination in France's constitution. Then, in early July, a majority of members of the European Parliament voted in favour of including the right to abortion in the European Union's legally binding Charter of Fundamental Rights. However, that vote was far from unanimous. With me to discuss the current situation around the European Union and where things might go from here are two members of the European Parliament. From Malta, which is the one EU state where abortion is illegal in all circumstances, Alfred Sant of the Socialists and Democrats group, and from the Netherlands, the EU member state with the latest legal time limit on abortion of up to 24 weeks, we're joined by MEP Samira Rafaela from the centrist Renew group. Hello to both of you.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Now, I would like to start for our audience with a little bit of an overview of broadly where things stand with abortion rights in the EU. Now, in most EU countries, abortion is legal without conditions, up to a time limit ranging from 12 to 24 weeks in most cases, and some exceptions later in pregnancy in specific circumstances, like a woman's life being at risk. You can see that in the pale purple colour there. Now, in Finland, in yellow, there's a list of conditions which would permit access to abortion. In Poland, much more restricted. Abortion is only legal when a doctor deems the woman's health or life is at risk, or if authorities accept that she was raped. And in Malta, abortion is illegal in all circumstances, including if the woman's life is at risk. You can see Malta at the bottom there in red. I'd like to come back to our guests, both of whom voted in favour of inscribing this abortion right into the Charter of Fundamental Rights. Start with you, Samira Rafaela. When you spoke in the European Parliament recently, you said that abortion rights are under threat from extremists.
Exactly. I did say that. What we see happening in the US also now, but also in Europe, is that because of extremist beliefs, people are imposing their values on the bodies of women. And by actually criminalizing abortion, you see that the risk of women's lives is really at stake. And this is something really extreme that is happening. It's because of very conservative beliefs. And it is not even possible to have a normal dialogue within our democratic institutions. It really goes that far that you see that they have a strategic agenda to implement with the result of criminalizing abortion and therefore undermining the bodily autonomy of women.
Alfred Sant, as I mentioned, you're somewhat in a minority of Maltese politicians in being in favour of protecting the right to abortion in this way. Why did you vote this way?
Well, in the first place, the vote was basically a vote against what happened in the US. And I am against revocation of any rights that have already been granted to citizens, which is what this amounted to. I'm more ambiguous about abortion rights, in the sense that in my country, majority of opinion is, popular opinion, is against abortion. This is changing, but I reflect the views of my voters, my citizens, and therefore on abortion per se in Malta, I am moving towards pro-choice changes, but I'm still having to reflect the real views of families and people and citizens in Malta.
Samira Rafaela, where do you stand on that in terms of reflecting the views of the citizens in your country or in another European country?
Well, as far as I know, I'm reflecting pretty good the opinions of my voters and citizens, and that is that women can choose whatever they would like to do with their body. And they have their own opinion. They can make their own decision about their bodies. And this is exactly what is not happening right now in some states in the US, but we also see it in some member states here in Europe. And we see that this agenda and this strategy is becoming more dangerous, like I said already, for the bodily autonomy. And this is really a pushback, I would say. I mean, we are fighting so hard, and generations before us are fighting so hard for making own decisions about your personal life, about your body, and then we see this happening, and this is really much worrying for generations to follow.
Now, I'd like to flag up for our audience a recent incident that happened actually on Malta in June. An American woman faced potentially dying from complications after her very wanted pregnancy suffered complications and failed while she and her partner were on a baby moon holiday in Malta, as they called it. Now, doctors in Malta told Andrea Prudente that they were unable to remove the fetus, even though it was brain dead, because its heart was still beating. And under Maltese law, that made an abortion illegal. Now, Andrea Prudente was eventually evacuated to Spain, and 135 Maltese doctors have since signed a legal protest calling for a review of the abortion ban. Alfred Sant, my team and I spoke to you in Malta earlier this year. You did say that a majority of Maltese people don't want to address this issue. Do you see things changing with incidents like this one regarding Andrea Prudente?
Definitely, yes. Actually, the whole point is this, that lawyers in Malta, legal experts in Malta, claim that while de jure, these doctors who would have done the therapeutic abortion would have been liable or not liable to prosecution. De facto, it has never been done. And that's guarantee enough, which is crazy. We've had an argument about that in the past. And the Paziente case really demonstrates that we have a situation that is not tenable and that should be changed at least to start off with on therapeutic abortion. But this case has again really ignited the issues, and I think there are shifts in the ways by which citizens, especially women, look at this question. And I think we're moving towards a greater percentage of women especially who would go for abortion rights in Malta. And that's, I think, a development that has to be watched and indeed promoted.
Yes, and as we discussed in our programme in Malta, Malta has the same number of abortions as the EU average proportionally each year. It's just that women have much more difficulty going about getting them. Samira Raffaella, just looking at the European context of this, it was a condition of Malta joining the European Union that the EU would not involve itself in the specific issue of abortion rights in Malta.
Well, if it was up to me, I would have never closed a deal on that. Absolutely not. I mean, being part of the European Union means also that you respect the bodily autonomy and integrity of women, and that we cannot accept criminalization of abortion or criminalization anyway, that we put women's life at stake. I mean, I would never accept that. And I think it's very wrong that we are accepting also this conservative extremist beliefs in our parliament. This is exactly what we need to stop doing. I mean, what you see is that it is that extreme that even when women's life are at risk, or even in the case of rape or incest, women are not allowed in some European countries to get an abortion. And this is exactly what we need to fight against. I'm very much worried about this anti-choice agenda that is absolutely taking ground. We see that in the US, we see that here in Europe, and it's very much time that the European Parliament, but also the other European institutions say, this is it, we draw a line here. If you are part of the European Union, you respect, in this case, the bodily autonomy and integrity of women. And I know that some European countries are trying to playing it a bit harsh, also in a manipulative way by saying, look, this is our competence. But we need to understand that abortion is a human right. It's part of healthcare service, absolutely. But abortion is healthcare, and therefore it is about human rights. And therefore, each and every single member state needs to guarantee the right to the access to abortion.
And just coming briefly back to this European Charter of Fundamental Rights, getting the right to abortion written into that, it would need the unanimous backing of the leaders of all 27 member states governments. Alfred Sant, given Malta's historic position on abortion, the chance of your government agreeing to this look like they're almost nil, or could I be wrong?
You're wrong on that because things change. We have the most liberal laws regarding LGBTQ rights, for instance. But apart from that, the whole principle now is what is the competence of the EU, what is the competence of member states. And here I really have a big clash of conscience, if you like, because I strongly believe in states' rights. And what is the EU competence is the EU competence, and what are states' rights are states' rights. And on this one, I think, well, I'm a dur, I'm an extremist in the sense that I believe in states' rights. And I don't believe in the extension of EU competencies on any kind of subject, not just this one. Beyond what is now in the competence before there's unanimity in it.
I'd just like to get a brief response, if I can, from Smira Rafael on that.
Yeah, I mean, we know in the European Parliament that we have definitely partners in the Council, also in the European Commission, but we also know that part of this extremist agenda is that they also make sure that there are people in our own EU institutions that basically are fighting for this anti-choice agenda. So it is very important that we find coalitions ourselves in the EU institutions. We do have that also in the Council, and this is exactly why we need to reform our decision-making process, because we need this kind of way of voting and a majority. This is because this is the reason why we cannot protect women's lives effectively. And this is exactly why we need to reform decision-making, especially in the Council.
Yeah, coming into some bigger issues there as well, aren't we? Well, I'd like to thank you both very much for taking part in this valuable discussion. Samira Rafaela and Alfred Sant, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thanks to you for watching the programme. Do hope to see you soon here on France 24.